So the first stop here is looking at the cast iron traceries, and as I'm sure you'll be aware, cast iron is quite an unusual thing to make a tracery out of. It would normally be made out of stone, but they're actually relatively common in Dudley and a few other churches around the Midlands. So as I say, it's cast components. It's a bit like a Meccano kit. And when the church was built, they'd have started at the bottom, building up the metal and the stone around it, gradually get to the top, build a metal arch, and then build a stone arch. The problem then is the whole structure's kind of trapped inside it. And the problem you get with the cast iron, as you'd expect, is it starts to corrode. So a little bit up here, and you can see down here where the water comes out at the bottom of it. And especially the problem is around areas like this, where a piece of, this is actually cement, but something's actually popped off here because the metal's expanding. And so you get little local problems like that, but you also get differential movement, where this whole, it's about 3 stories high, this piece of metal, it's expanding and contracting, and it's cracking all of the stone around it, which is causing structural problems for the whole church. So about 5 years ago we looked at repairing one of these windows and did a trial project that was funded by the National Lottery and Historic England, and did a really in-depth project to repair it. And to do that we had to prop the arch at the top, cut through the window to about this level, take it all down from the top, take it all up from below, take all the components off site, clean them all with shot blasted them with ball bearings to completely clean back to their metal, painted it with epoxy, 2-part epoxy paint system, rebuilt it all, preparing the stonework as we went, re-leaded it all, and the cost of that for just one window was over 100,000, one of the smallest windows. So it became evidence that it was not going to be possible with 13 windows around the church to keep on going in that way. So we've had to devise a technique which is kind of an intermediate approach to repair, really. One of the advantages of doing that project was we learned that the effect of movement on the church wasn't as bad as was originally thought, because we'd had a chance to monitor over it 5 years and see what the degree of change was. It's given us the confidence to repair it in the manner we are now, which is going to be to clean all this metal back in situ without taking it apart, and use some techniques which are actually developed for things like the repair of vintage cars, like pumping wax into these cavities to protect it from water ingress in the future. And we're working with a metalwork specialist called Peter Meehan, who's got a lot of experience in these techniques. He's been developing these techniques through his research, and he's working towards a PhD in the subject. So we're working on 3 windows on this phase of work, so this one and the opposite one, and also the tracer on the east end, which we'll see in a bit more detail later on. A lot of this project is about masonry repair, and you can see, this is one of the crenellations, and you can see how much that moves, with my Jeff Capes-like strength is moving that stone. And the problem is these have all been built, again using cast iron. There's actually stone down in the centre and then 2 cast iron downs here.
Right.
What happens is, of course, the water gets in, the metal expands, and it all starts breaking apart. You can see where these have been repaired in the past, here and here, and all along here. That's actually been built up with tile and cement to try and stop water getting in. But it just gets eventually to the point where there's just so much decay that elements are just unsafe, and we actually had these started to fall off, or that were so loose that we had to take them off to stop them falling off the bubble. Other problems are, this is just a very kind of soft sandstone. And what you can see here is from masonry these getting in. And you can see, although that surface in itself doesn't look too bad, it's actually, got these within it that have caused quite a lot of decay. You've got sections here that have completely fallen away. And what we've been doing here is defrassing a lot of this, so removing loose stonework. Even though as part of this project we wouldn't replace that piece, We've defrosted it, removed it so that there's no risk of anything falling, and also repaired it with mortar to consolidate a lot of the loose areas. So you can also see here, I mean, the stonemasons have taken our drawings and kind of marked up the stone with the required repairs. So these are going to be indent repairs. This is where, that stone is generally good, that is generally good, but that is just a piece which is going to be cut out and a new piece of stone made, fitted. It will be properly squared off, and that'll be fixed in with a lime mortar or resin, depending on the size of it. And that'll be quite a common repair technique we use across the building as well. This is one of 13 pinnacles, number one. And most of what the work's been done, I mean, we can look at some of the others, but on this one particularly, you can see again there's been defrassing and just repointing all these areas where there's, this is actually to sort of cast the water away where there's weather traps, so it's just to make sure the water keeps flowing over them. Condition is the worst, and I mean the problem is repairing something like that to replace it exactly like that. You're talking about 1,500 quid, you see, and there's a lot of decay of that nature over the building. So really this project is about making it safe, make sure nothing's going to fall. Eventually, this will go and it will have to be replaced, hopefully decades in the future. So it's really about extending the life of the material as far as we can, given the funds are available. And some of these pinnacles have required quite a lot of repair because they're filled, instead of being solid stone, it's with basically rubble and lime mortar. So they're suffering some of the same problems that we've talked about elsewhere, where you've got metal rods going down within the structure, water penetration, metal expanding, gradually breaking apart, and that's why there's these things like these metal cramps that have been built in at some point in the past to try and restrain the whole structure. But you can see here, I mean, this is one of the best preserved pinnacles, and as you look around, you can see how many you've got bits missing.
Yeah. Oh, see, so were they all like that then, with that top on? That's the same.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So it's this is missing. And this is obviously a bit that's been made a bit like that. That's been cast in the 60s probably. And you can see in a lot of these you've got the metal rods which are poking up out of the top.
Yes.
Which go quite a way. They probably go down to about here. I don't think built up around there. The gables were in far worse condition than we'd anticipated. The worst one was on that end, which we found I could actually move with my finger. In the end, it was just like so, ready to come down really. So all of this has been taken down so it can be rebuilt properly. And you can see they've drilled down into it to put these stainless steel rods in, which will be resined in, in different positions to stiffen it. So there's more going in here. You can see they started putting in resin to seal up these cracks. And what they've done as well is just cut down, sliced into it, and put in threaded stainless steel bar to restrain it. Then there'll be a plate that goes on the back of this, which is then restrained back to that wall there to again, just restrain this and make sure there's no risk of it falling in the future. But you can see all kinds of decay here. Like the masonry beams are especially bad here. And you can just see some of this stone out. You can probably hear like how hollow it is, compared to that.
Is it the bees?
It's partly bees, partly it's water just getting down in there and washing it all out from the inside. So it's got this kind of, it's a bit like a cake, and it's got this, this crust to it. And when that gets broken away, for whatever reason, then it's just very, very soft inside. Like this. Yeah, which is why like actually cleaning the stone is quite risky. So it just what erodes that surface that protects it all. This is waiting to be, that'll be filled with water and just again to weather it, because that stone is just, I don't know, it would be quite easy to just snap pieces off with your bare hands. Really. In areas like this where we're just trying to save what we can. You can see here all of these crenellations, the merlons being replaced as well. They've all been taken down awaiting delivery of stone.
Yeah.
You can see all these pinnacles a bit close. There's Martin back at it.
Yeah.
Went and hid when we went a little bit shy. So. This is the worst one really, the east one. You can see how bad it gets when the water gets inside. It gets all swell. You can see, I mean, it's probably been the most recently decorated as well, But this, which you probably think is lead, is actually iron as well.
Oh, really?
So even the lead is made out of iron on this church. And behind that, you see, you've got this kind of copper grill to protect it.
Yeah.
And then there was until recently actually a sail, so a traditional ship's sail, which was there as a diffuser. It's made out of linen, so that it doesn't cast shadows onto the stained glass behind. So there's a gap probably this big between this and the inside of the stained glass, which the conservator had to climb up into, erecting a scaffold as he went, or she went. And using a scalpel, take all of the putty that was holding these very thin pieces of glass and very carefully take them all out, take them to the workshop. So that this can then be repaired in situ, get all the rust off it, get it decorated, get all the glass back into it, and make sure it's providing proper protection to the stained glass.
So will that glass be changed?
As much as possible of it is going to be reused.
But it'll come out with this.
Yeah, that's it. So it'll come out so that all this can be, the metal can be cleaned off. Some of these, that will have to be replaced. So when you get up close to it, you realise just how bad condition this actually is.
It was exhilarating and very windy. I did actually think that my fear of heights might kick in, but I managed it quite well. And I think the whole thing being so interesting kind of kept you sort of going, if you know what I mean. So.
Absolutely brilliant. Fantastic. I'm glad I've done it because I don't think I shall get the chance to do it again.
So I think it was nice to see it from a different perspective, to see Dudley, to see the church from a different perspective. That was the thing that I've taken away from going on there.
I mean, having been in the church or around this church since the mid-90s, it's interesting to see the actual history of the church up close, and considering it was the last time we had proper restoration was in the 90s, it's interesting how much more work it needs again.
Actually to do with the window and the tracery, because I didn't realise how much there was behind what you saw from inside the church, and didn't realise there was a sail in there or anything like that. So I found that's the one bit I never knew. I'd known bits about other areas, but that I found quite amazing.
I learned that it was in a much worse condition than I thought it would be. It really is in a bad condition. He showed you those putting iron rods in some of the windows and things to make them stronger, and and then putting a newer material in to save it and stop the water getting in, and I'm doing a lot of work up there.
Yeah, I didn't know the windows were made out of cast iron. I thought it was made out of stone, like most churches, but then I found out that that's not the case either. It's kind of a West Midlands thing to have metal windows, which I didn't even realise was a thing.
100% the same. I thought, looking from this level, that they were stone, and to be up close and see that they're different and interesting, was a good thing.
Always. Always, without question.
It does, really does. I mean, I know a lot of the churches around here because having family that's always lived around here, they've all gone to different churches. So I know quite a bit about a lot of the churches, so I do. I'm proud to be Dudley Top Church now. Nearly 13 years.